The emergency lights flashed red across the command station. Ambassador Velthus stood before the viewing screen, watching another world die. His forearms trembled as he saw the green and blue planet below slowly turn gray. The Corinthian swarm was consuming everything. "How long until Vethra falls completely?" Velthus asked, his voice barely steady. High Commander Kell checked his instruments. The old warrior looked exhausted. His scales had lost their shine weeks ago. 6 hours. Maybe less? The biological ships are spreading across the southern continent now. Our fleet cannot stop them. Velthus closed his primary eyes. 3 worlds lost in 1 month. 3 beautiful worlds where billions lived, laughed, and dreamed. Now those worlds were becoming part of the swarm. The Corinthian ships were not metal and circuits like normal vessels. They were alive, growing and healing faster than weapons could damage them. Each battle fed them more biomass. Each victory made them stronger. The council chamber behind him was filled with representatives from 7 species. All of them looked terrified. They had built their civilization on peace and trade. Their weapons were designed to stop pirates, not to fight a plague that consumed entire planets. "We must send another request for aid," said Council Speaker Theron. Her crystalline body chimed softly with distress. "The Galactic Union must help us." Kell made a bitter sound. "The Union sealed their borders 2 weeks ago. They declared our entire sector a quarantine zone. No ships in or out? They are leaving us to die. What about the Confederation? The Trade Alliance?" someone asked. "All the same," Velthus replied. "Every major power in the galaxy has decided we are already lost. They will not risk the swarm spreading to their territory." Silence fell over the chamber. Outside the viewing ports, Valthene patrol ships drifted in formation. There were perhaps 200 vessels left from a fleet that once numbered 2,000. It was not enough. It would never be enough. The Corinthian swarm had appeared 6 months ago from unknown space. Their ships were grotesque things that looked like massive insects combined with deep-sea creatures. They did not communicate. They did not negotiate. They simply consumed every organic thing in their path and converted it into more swarm. "Send the distress call on all frequencies," Velthus finally said. "Every channel we know. Use the old emergency protocols from before the Union was formed. Someone out there might listen." "That is ancient technology," Theron protested. "Those frequencies are hundreds of cycles old. No civilized species monitors them anymore." "Then we pray an uncivilized species hears us," Velthus said quietly. "Because the civilized ones have abandoned us." The communications officer, a young Valthene named Pelas, began broadcasting. The message was simple and desperate. It described the swarm, their current position, and a plea for any help that might come. The signal went out in all directions, screaming into the void. Hours passed. Vethra's gray surface grew darker as the swarm consumed its atmosphere. Kell reported that all remaining population centers had gone silent. 12 billion souls lost to the hunger of the hive. Then Pelas shouted, "Ambassador, we have a response." Everyone in the chamber rushed to the communications station. On the screen, text appeared in broken but understandable galactic standard. The translator struggled with some words, suggesting the responding species was using very old language databases. "This is the Terran Defense Force responding to distress signal. We are dispatching rapid response fleet to your coordinates. Estimated arrival, 48 hours. Hold position. Help is coming. Terran?" Kell searched his military databases. "I have never heard of this species. There is no record of them in any Union registry." "The signal came from grid section 447, Pelas reported. "That region is marked as unexplored in our charts. The Union considers it too dangerous for survey missions. High radiation, unstable stars, and classified as a red zone." Velthus felt something he had not felt in weeks. Hope, small and fragile, but real. "They are coming from the red zone? What kind of species lives in such a place?" "Unknown, Ambassador," Pelas replied. "But they are asking for tactical data on the swarm," They want to know numbers, ship classifications, and biological composition. They are very specific in their questions. Over the next hours, the Terran Defense Force asked hundreds of questions. They wanted to know everything about the Corinthian swarm. Their questions showed a detailed understanding of warfare that surprised. Kel, these Terrans thought like soldiers, like hunters. They asked about the swarm's reproductive cycle, Kel muttered, reading the latest message, and how quickly they can adapt to new environments. These are not questions a peaceful species asks. Right now, I do not care if they are peaceful, Valthus said. I care if they can fight. The 48 hours felt like years. 2 more evacuation ships were lost trying to save refugees from the outer colonies. The swarm pushed closer to the command station's position. Kel prepared to make a final stand with the remaining fleet. Then the sensors screamed. Ships were dropping out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of their space. Dozens of ships. Then hundreds. The display could barely count them all as they continued arriving. By the ancestors, Theron whispered. How many ships did they send? Pelas worked frantically at his station. I count 460 vessels so far. No, wait, more are arriving. They are still coming through. The ships were not like anything in the Valthene databases. They had sharp angles and heavy armor plating. They moved in precise formations that spoke of serious military discipline. And they were large. Even the smallest vessels dwarfed Valthene cruisers. Data communication came through. The screen showed a being that made several council members step back in shock. It was bipedal like several species, but there was something different about it. Forward-facing eyes. Eyes of a predator. Visible teeth that were clearly designed for tearing meat. This is Captain Minho of the Terran Defense Force ship Indomitable, the being said. His voice was calm but carried authority that made even Kel straighten. We received your distress call. Sorry it took us a while to get here. Now let us talk about this swarm problem you have got. Valthus stared at the human captain and felt that fragile hope grow stronger. They had asked for help. They had asked anyone in the universe to hear them, and something had answered. Something that looked at the unstoppable swarm and called it a problem to be solved. Captain Minho stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and studied the alien command station on his screens. It was elegant and flowing, designed by beings who valued beauty even in their military structures. It reminded him of coral reefs back on Earth, organic and peaceful. But the scorch marks and damaged sections told another story. These people had been fighting hard and losing badly. Get me a full tactical analysis of the area, Minho ordered. I want to know where every swarm ship is located within 10 light minutes of our position. His tactical officer, Commander Taiyang, worked quickly at his station. Taiyang was younger than Minho, but had a gift for seeing patterns in chaos. He had predicted enemy movements in the outer colony wars with disturbing accuracy. Captain, I am reading approximately 200 organic vessels near the 4th planet. They are moving in a feeding pattern. Consistent with hive behavior, Minho nodded. Hive minds were dangerous but predictable. They followed instinct more than strategy. Communications, open a channel to the Valthene command station. Let them see us. Full diplomatic protocols. The screen shifted to show the inside of an alien command center. The beings there were humanoid, but with 4 arms and skin that looked like polished stone. Many of them stared at Minho with expressions he recognized even across species lines. Fear and desperation, one of them stepped forward. The one with amber-colored skin and ornate clothing that suggested high rank. I am Ambassador Valthus of the Valthene Coalition. You are Captain Minho of the Terran Defense Force? Correct, Minho replied. He kept his voice gentle. These people needed reassurance, not more fear. We came as fast as we could. Our analysts are reviewing the data you sent. But I would like to establish a joint command center. We work better alongside our allies than apart from them. He saw several of the aliens glance at each other. The one in military armor spoke next. I am High Commander Kel. Captain, forgive my bluntness, but we need to understand what we are dealing with. What kind of forces do you bring? Your fleet. is impressive in size, but the swarm has destroyed everything we sent against them. Minho understood the question behind the question. They wanted to know if humanity could actually help or if they were just more victims waiting to be consumed. Commander Taiyang, transmit our standard force composition to Commander Kel, and send over our engagement records from similar threats. Similar threats? Velthus asked. You have fought hive mind species before? 3 times in our history, Minho confirmed. Different species, but the behavior patterns are similar. Aggressive expansion, organic technology, overwhelming numbers. We developed countermeasures. A new human appeared on the split screen from another section of the Indomitable. She was shorter than Minho with quick eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. Ambassador Velthus, I am Hannah from the Terran Diplomatic Corps. I apologize for interrupting, but I have been reviewing your cultural database. With your permission, I would like to come aboard your station with a small team. We need to coordinate more closely. Minho noticed Hannah had dark circles under her eyes and was chewing something. Probably stimulant tablets. She had likely been awake for 2 days straight preparing briefings. Typical Hannah. Of course, Velthus said. You are welcome aboard. 6 hours later, a human shuttle docked with the Valthene station. Ambassador Velthus waited at the airlock with a security detail. He was not sure what to expect. The humans looked predatory on the screens, but appearances could be deceiving. The airlock opened and Hannah stepped through, followed by 3 other humans. They moved with an easy confidence that Velthus found unsettling. Hannah smiled, and it showed her teeth. Velthus tried not to focus on the canines. Thank you for receiving us, Ambassador, Hannah said. She spoke Valthene with only a slight accent. I hope you don't mind, but I brought some specialists. This is Dr. Yuna, our xenobiologist. Commander Taijing you've already met via comm. And this is Sergeant Nari from our Marine Division. Velthus greeted each of them. Dr. Yuna was already staring around the station with open curiosity. Tiang carried a datapad and was typing notes constantly. Sergeant Nari was the largest human, heavily muscled in a way that seemed excessive. She nodded politely, but her eyes never stopped scanning their surroundings. A soldier's habit, they moved to a conference room where Kel and the council waited. As they walked, Velthus noticed the humans moved comfortably in the station's gravity. The Valthene maintained their stations at standard coalition gravity, which was comfortable for most species. But these humans seemed unbothered. Your gravity is pleasant, Hannah commented. About 0.8 of Earth standard? You can tell by walking? Kel asked. We train in variable gravity, Nari replied. Her voice was surprisingly gentle for someone so physically intimidating. Part of basic conditioning. In the conference room, Dr. Yuna immediately asked to see samples of Corinthian biology. Kel provided tissue samples and scanned data from destroyed swarm ships. The doctor studied them with the intensity of someone examining a fascinating puzzle rather than a terrifying threat. This is actually beautiful work, Yuna said after 20 minutes. The cellular structure is incredibly efficient. They can adapt to almost any environment by rewriting their genetic code in real time. No wonder conventional weapons struggle against them. Beautiful? Theron asked. Doctor, this thing has killed billions of our people. Yuna looked up, and Velthus saw something in her expression that made him pause. It was not cruelty exactly, but a cold calculation. I understand, Council Speaker. I call it beautiful the same way I might call a great white shark beautiful, magnificent in its deadliness, but that also means I can find its weaknesses. Taiyang was reviewing tactical data with Kel. The human commander pointed at a star map. They are feeding here, here, and here. Classic expansion pattern. They need biomass to grow their fleet, so they target high-population worlds first. But that also means they are predictable. We tried to predict their movements, Kel said. It did not help. We could not match their speed or their regeneration. That's because you were thinking about it wrong, Taiyang replied. He meant no insult, but Velthus saw Kel stiffen anyway. You were trying to defend everywhere. That cannot work against a swarm. You have to hit them where they are vulnerable. And where is that? Kel demanded. Their breeding worlds. See here, Taiyang highlighted a planet on the map. They have converted this world into a spawning ground. All their expansion originates from there. We destroy that. We cripple their ability to replace losses. Hannah was explaining human history to Valthus. She told him about Earth, a world that sounded like a nightmare. Extreme temperatures from frozen poles to scorching deserts. Weather systems that could flatten cities. Predators that hunted in packs. Microorganisms that caused devastating plagues. Your world tried to kill you constantly, Valthus said, trying to understand. Yes, Hannah agreed. So we learned to be very hard to kill. Our bodies adapted. Our minds adapted. We learned to fight everything from viruses to megafauna to each other. It made us good at survival. And at warfare, Kel added quietly. That too, Hannah admitted. But we also learned cooperation. On Earth, humans formed groups to survive. We are very good at working together when we face a common threat. And Ambassador, the Corinthian swarm is definitely a common threat. 3 more human ships docked over the next hours. They brought engineers, more scientists, tactical coordinators, and medical staff. The humans integrated themselves into every section of the coalition operations. They asked questions constantly, learning everything they could. Valthus found Sergeant Nari in the training bay, demonstrating human combat capabilities to curious Valthine soldiers. She lifted equipment that normally required power loaders. She moved through combat drills with speed that seemed impossible for someone her size. How? One Valthine soldier asked. How are you so strong? Earth gravity is higher than here, Nari explained. I grew up lifting more weight just by standing up. Plus, we train hard. My grandmother used to say humans are not the strongest or fastest, but we never quit. That night, Valthus couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about what Hannah had said. Humanity came from a world that tried to kill them, and they thrived anyway. They faced extinction multiple times in their history and survived. They developed weapons and tactics against threats that seemed impossible to beat. Maybe, just maybe, they could survive this too, on the Indomitable. Captain Minho reviewed the final reports. Behind him, the human fleet held position in perfect formation. 400 ships, each crewed by people from a world where survival was never guaranteed. Send word to Admiral Hyan, Minho ordered. Tell him to bring the main battle group. We are going to need more than a rapid response force. Taeyang looked up. You think it will be that difficult? Minho smiled, and it was not a kind expression. No, Commander. I think we are going to make sure the swarm never threatens anyone again. And for that, we will need the whole Armada. Dr. Yuna worked through the night in the laboratory section of the Valthine station. Around her, several Valthine scientists watched in fascination and growing horror. She had taken the Corinthian tissue samples and was systematically testing different compounds against them. There, Yuna said, pointing at a sample under the microscope. See how the cells collapse when exposed to this modified protein chain? The swarm adapted to resist most toxins, but their adaptation has a limit. They optimize for organic defenses found in most carbon-based life. But Earth life developed in a much harsher environment. A Valthine scientist named Peller leaned closer. What is that compound? Modified capsaicin mixed with tetrodotoxin analogs, Yuna replied. On Earth, plants developed a capsaicin to stop animals from eating them. It causes intense pain. And tetrodotoxin is one of the deadliest natural poisons on my world. Some of our sea creatures use it for defense. Your plants weaponize themselves? Peller asked. Everything on Earth weaponized itself, Yuna said matter-of-factly. You adapt or you die? The Corinthian swarm is impressive, but they have never faced Earth-level biological warfare. Their cells can't adapt fast enough to our toxins because they evolved in a gentler universe. She continued working, her fingers moving quickly across the equipment. Yuna had been awake for 30 hours, but she showed no signs of slowing down. Pella had tried to suggest she rest, but Yuna just smiled and took another stimulant tablet dot in another section of the station. Engineer Junho was horrifying the maintenance crew. A critical sensor array had been damaged in the last swarm attack. It was located on the outer hull in hard vacuum. The Valthine engineers were preparing a repair drone because going outside was too dangerous. Junho simply put on a pressure suit and walked out the airlock? Should we not wait for the drone? A Valthene engineer asked over the radio. This will be faster, Junho replied. Through the exterior cameras, they watched him work. His movements were efficient and practiced. He replaced damaged components with tools that seemed almost primitive compared to Valthene technology, but he worked with a confidence that spoke of long experience. Engineer Junho, the Valthene called nervously. Your suit radiation alarm is sounding. Yeah, I hear it, Junho said calmly. I am almost done. This level won't hurt me for another hour or so? An hour! That radiation would be lethal to us in minutes. Junho finished the repair and came back inside. When he removed his helmet, he was smiling. Earth's sun puts out a lot of radiation. We evolved some decent protection. Plus, I grew up in the Korean Peninsula where we had some radiation exposure after the old wars. You build up tolerance. The Valthene engineers stared at him. This human had just worked in conditions that would kill them, and he talked about it like it was a minor inconvenience. In the training center, Sergeant Nari was running drills with a mixed unit of human Marines and Valthene soldiers. The exercise was simple: rescue hostages from a simulated swarm-infected ship. The Valthene troops had done this drill before and knew the procedure. The humans did it differently. Nari's squad moved through the mock corridors with frightening speed. They communicated in quick, precise bursts. They covered angles that the Valthene troops had not even considered. When they reached the hostage room, the humans did not hesitate. They breached, cleared, and secured in under 20 seconds. Commander Kell watched from the observation deck. Beside him, a human officer named Sung provided commentary. Sung was a Marine captain with scars across his face that suggested serious combat experience. Your soldiers are very aggressive, Kell observed. They take risks that seem unnecessary. Calculated risks, Sung corrected. Every human on that team knows their exact capabilities. They know how much damage they can take and keep fighting. On Earth, we have a saying, fortune favors the bold. Hesitation gets people killed. But charging forward like that works when you have been training since childhood, Sung interrupted. Every human in my unit can run for hours without stopping. They can operate for days without sleep if needed. They can take injuries that would incapacitate your soldiers and keep fighting. It is not recklessness, Commander. It is understanding what Deathworld evolution gives you. Kell was beginning to understand something disturbing. Humans were not just confident. They were confident because they genuinely were that capable. Their bodies and minds had been forged in an environment so hostile that it made them naturally superior at warfare. That afternoon, Ambassador Velthus called a meeting in the main conference hall. The human leadership had arrived from their fleet. Admiral Hyan, the commander of the entire human battle group, stood at the head of the table. He was older than the other humans Velthus had met, with gray in his hair and a presence that commanded respect. Thank you for your hospitality, Admiral Hyan began. I have reviewed the tactical situation. The Corinthian swarm currently controls 3 of your worlds and is actively breeding on the planet designated Kelthra. My staff estimates they can spawn another 1,000 bioships within a month if we do not act. We know, Velthus said. We tried to attack Kelthra twice. We lost 40 ships each time. The breeding ground is too well defended. Hyan nodded. Your forces fought bravely, but you were not equipped for this kind of warfare. The swarm uses numbers and regeneration. You need to overwhelm them with firepower they cannot heal from and tactics they cannot predict. And you can do this? Theron asked. Her crystalline body chimed with skepticism. We can, Hyan said simply. Humanity has been at war for most of our history. We fought each other for thousands of years before we unified. We learned every way a war can be won or lost. We developed weapons that terrified us. We created tactics so effective they became immortalized in our culture. And when we met our first hive mind species 300 years ago, we learned how to fight that too. Hannah activated a holographic display. It showed images from Earth's history. Velthus saw battles from humanity's past. Massive armies clashing with primitive weapons. Cities destroyed by bombs. Ships burning in space. It was a history written in blood and fire. We are not proud of all our history, Hana said quietly. But we learn from it. We learn that some threats cannot be negotiated with. Some enemies will not stop until they are completely defeated. The swarm is that kind of enemy. Dr. Yuna presented her findings. She had identified 3 major biological weaknesses in the Corinthian structure. She had also developed a bioweapon specifically tailored to attack swarm cellular regeneration. It would not kill them instantly, but it would stop them from healing. We can produce this in large quantities, Yuna explained. Our fleet carriers are equipped with full manufacturing facilities. We designed them that way after the Outer Colony Wars. Self-sufficiency is important when you are far from home. Commander Taiyang showed his tactical analysis. He had mapped every swarm ship movement for the past month. From that data, he had predicted their behavioral patterns with 93% accuracy. They are predictable because they are a hive mind. Individual creativity is their weakness. They follow optimal patterns but cannot adapt to truly unexpected strategies. What is your unexpected strategy? Kel asked. Taiyang smiled. We are going to do something the swarm will never expect. We are going to attack Kelthra with our entire fleet. And we are not going to stop until every swarm organism on that planet is dead. No retreat. No mercy. Overwhelming force applied with absolute determination. The Valthine Council members looked at each other nervously. What the humans were proposing was not a battle. It was complete extermination. Is that not extreme? Velthus asked carefully. Admiral Hyan's expression hardened. Ambassador, the swarm consumed 3 of your worlds. They killed billions of your people. They will continue killing until they consume the entire galaxy if we let them. This is not cruelty. This is necessity. We will give them one chance to retreat. If they refuse, we will remove them as a threat permanently. That evening, Velthus found himself on an observation deck with Hana. They looked out at the human fleet. Even more ships had arrived. There were now over 1,000 vessels in formation. Carriers, destroyers, frigates, and massive dreadnoughts that dwarfed anything the Coalition had ever built. Are all human fleets this large? Velthus asked. No, Hana admitted. This is about 40% of our total military strength. But we take threats to innocent people seriously. When the call for help went out, every ship captain volunteered. We had to tell some of them to stay home and defend our own space. Why? Velthus asked. Why do you care so much about people you have never met? Hana was quiet for a moment. On Earth we have a story. A very old story from before we went to space. A man was walking on a beach covered with thousands of starfish that had washed ashore. They were dying. The man started picking them up one by one and throwing them back into the ocean. Someone told him it was pointless. There were too many starfish and he could not save them all. The man picked up another starfish and threw it back. He said, "It mattered to that one." She turned to look at Velthus. "You asked for help, Ambassador. That matters. The fact that we can help matters. Humanity learned a long time ago that we survive best when we help each other. That does not change just because you are a different species." The human armada gathered at the edge of the Kelthra system like a storm preparing to break. Over 1,000 ships held position in perfect formation. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Captain Minho watched the countdown timer reach 0. "All ships report ready, Captain," Commander Taiyang announced. "Admiral Hyan has given the authorization. We are cleared to engage." Minho took a deep breath. He had fought in many battles, but this one felt different. This was not just about victory. This was about sending a message to the universe that some lines could not be crossed. "All ships, this is Captain Minho. Execute jump on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark." Space folded and the human fleet disappeared in flashes of light. Seconds later, they emerged in the Kelthra system. Alarms immediately screamed across every bridge as sensors detected the swarm presence. The planet below was covered in gray and green biomass. Thousands of swarm ships orbited like a cloud of insects. Enemy contacts numbering 3,200, Tai Yang reported calmly. They are moving to intercept. Estimated time to engagement 4 minutes. On the Valthine command station, Ambassador Velthus and High Commander Kell watched through the tactical display. The human fleet was outnumbered 3-1. But instead of defensive formations, the humans were accelerating forward. They are charging directly at the swarm, Kell said in disbelief. That is suicide. Hana stood beside them, watching quietly. No, Commander. That is human warfare. We learned a long time ago that hesitation kills more soldiers than boldness. Watch. The first wave of swarm bioships rushed toward the human fleet. They were massive things covered in chitinous armor and organic weapons. They had destroyed coalition fleets with these same tactics. Overwhelming numbers and rapid regeneration made them nearly unstoppable. The humans opened fire at maximum range. Missiles streaked across space by the thousands. Each one carried Dr. Yuna's bioweapon in its warhead. When they impacted the swarm ships, the effect was immediate. The organic armor stopped healing. Wounds remained open. The regeneration that made them so dangerous simply stopped working. Direct hit on lead elements, a weapons officer reported. Bioweapon is effective. Enemy regeneration reduced by 87%. All ships, weapons free, Admiral Hyun ordered from his flagship. Pour it on? Do not give them time to adapt. The human fleet split into strike groups. Each group moved with practiced precision, attacking from multiple angles. Railguns fired solid projectiles at speeds that punched straight through swarm armor. Energy weapons carved burning paths through organic hulls. And fighters launched from carriers in swarms of their own. Pilot Quan led his squadron through the chaos. His fighter pulled maneuvers at 12 times Earth gravity. Inside his cockpit, compression systems kept him alive, but he could still feel the pressure trying to crush him. Most species would have blacked out. Humans trained for this. Red Squadron, follow my lead, Quan called over the radio. His voice was steady despite the massive G-forces. We are going for the bioship clusters near the orbital stations. Break on my mark. His squadron dove toward the planet, weaving between swarm ships. The organic vessels tried to intercept, firing weapons that would have destroyed any coalition fighter. But human reflexes were faster. Quan's fingers danced across his controls with speed that seemed impossible. He had been flying combat missions since he was 18. Now, at 26, he could predict enemy fire patterns before they happened. Missiles away. Quan launched his entire payload. Behind him, his squadron did the same. Dozens of missiles streaked toward their targets. The explosions bloomed like deadly flowers, destroying ships that had taken multiple coalition attacks to bring down on the surface of Kelthera. The swarm had converted entire continents into breeding grounds. Human scanners detected billions of organisms down there, all working to create more bioships. This was the heart of the swarm's expansion. Begin atmospheric saturation, Admiral Hyun ordered. Deploy the cleanser protocol. Special bombers moved into position. They were ugly, functional ships designed for one purpose. Each one carried tanks full of Dr. Yuna's bioweapon in aerosol form. They entered Kelthera's atmosphere and began releasing their payload. The weapon spread on the winds, falling like rain across the infected continents. On the indomitable science station, Dr. Yuna monitored the results. Cleanser is spreading as predicted. Swarm biomass showing cellular breakdown. Regeneration has stopped. They are dying. The swarm felt it happening. For the first time in their expansion, they encountered something they could not adapt to fast enough. The hive mind that connected all their organisms sent out signals of distress and rage. They tried psychological warfare, broadcasting images and sounds designed to break enemy morale, but humans had been using psychological warfare for thousands of years. They were not affected by tactics they had invented. The space battle intensified. Swarm ships threw themselves at the human fleet in waves. Some human vessels took damage. The destroyer Relentless lost its port side guns. The cruiser Dauntless had its engines damaged, but the human ships kept fighting. Their armor held. Their crews worked through injuries that would have incapacitated others. "Boarding torpedoes incoming," an officer shouted aboard the carrier Thunderbolt. Swarm organisms attempting to breach. Marine Sergeant Nari and her squad waited in the breach point. They wore heavy combat armor and carried weapons designed to fight in close quarters. When the swarm organisms burst through the hull, they found humans ready. The creatures were nightmares of teeth and claws and organic weapons. They had overwhelmed Coalition Marines in seconds during previous battles. But Earth had nightmares too. It had predators that hunted in packs and never gave up. Nari's squad opened fire. The corridor lit up with muzzle flashes and the screams of dying organisms. When some got through the initial barrage, the Marines switched to close combat. Nari moved with brutal efficiency, her training and enhanced strength making her a match for creatures twice her size. "Hold this line," Nari shouted. "Do not let them reach the crew sections." Her Marines fought with determination that shocked even themselves. One soldier, Corporal Day, took wounds from a swarm creature's claws but kept fighting. Human biology was tough. Human willpower was tougher. The swarm tried to infect captured humans, hoping to turn them into more swarm organisms. But human immune systems had evolved fighting Earth's superpathogens. Plagues that killed millions. Viruses that jumped species. Bacteria that developed resistance to every cure. The Corinthian infection could not spread fast enough. Human white blood cells attacked it like they attacked everything foreign. Most infected humans survived long enough to receive treatment. "This is impossible," the swarm hive mind thought in its collective consciousness. These beings should not exist. Their world must be hell itself. On the command bridge of the Indomitable, Captain Minho watched the tactical display. The battle had raged for 6 hours. Human ships were battered but holding. The swarm had lost over half its fleet. The breeding grounds on Kelthra were dying under the bioweapon assault. "Enemy fleet is beginning to withdraw," Commander Taiyang reported. "They are attempting to retreat to the outer system." "Do not let them escape," Minho ordered. "Pursuit pattern Delta, run them down." The human fleet gave chase. Fast frigates caught up with fleeing bioships and destroyed them. Nothing escaped. Admiral Hyan had been clear. This threat would be eliminated completely. On Kelthra's surface, Marine Captain Soong led ground assault teams. They deployed from dropships into the dead zones where the bioweapon had been most effective. Their mission was to ensure no swarm organisms survived to rebuild. They moved through landscapes of gray biomass that was slowly rotting away. Occasionally, they found surviving organisms and eliminated them with controlled precision. "This is brutal," a young Marine said, staring at the destruction. "This is necessary," Soong replied. "The swarm showed no mercy to those 3 worlds they consumed. We are here to make sure they never hurt anyone else again." 12 hours after the battle began, it was over. The last swarm bioship was destroyed. The breeding grounds on Kelthra were sterilized. Human ships began recovery operations, picking up survivors from damaged vessels and cataloging losses. The human fleet had lost 37 ships. Thousands of crew members killed or wounded. But they had won. The Corinthian swarm that had seemed unstoppable was gone. Ambassador Velthus stood on the command station, staring at the tactical display in stunned silence. The humans had done what seemed impossible. They had not just defeated the swarm, they had annihilated it. "How?" Kel whispered. "How did they do this?" Hannah smiled tiredly beside them. She looked exhausted but satisfied. "Because we come from a world where nothing is unbeatable, Commander. Earth taught us that there is always a way to win if you are smart enough, tough enough, and brave enough." The swarm was dangerous, but compared to Earth's challenges, they were just another problem to solve. Captain Minho's face appeared on the communication screen. He had cuts on his face and his uniform was scorched, but he was smiling. "Ambassador Velthus, the Kelthra system is secure. The swarm threat has been eliminated. Your space is safe now." Velthus felt tears forming. His species did not cry often, but this moment deserved it. Thank you, Captain. 3 months had passed since the Battle of Kelthera. The Valthine Coalition space was slowly healing. Human engineering teams worked alongside Coalition workers to rebuild damaged stations and planetary infrastructure. Ships moved freely again through space that had been a war zone. Ambassador Velthus stood in the newly constructed council hall on the restored capital station. Today was important. Today, the Coalition would formally vote on the Human Alliance Treaty. Around him, representatives from all 7 Coalition species waited nervously. The doors opened and the human delegation entered. Captain Minho led them, wearing formal diplomatic attire instead of his military uniform. Behind him came Hana, Dr. Yuna, and Admiral Hyan. They moved with the same confidence they always had. But something had changed in how the Coalition viewed them. Fear had transformed into deep respect. "Thank you for coming," Velthus said, gesturing to seats prepared for them. "We have much to discuss." Over the past 3 months, the galaxy had learned about humanity. News of the swarm's defeat spread quickly through interstellar communication networks. Species that had ignored the Coalition's pleas for help now sent diplomatic messages to Earth. Some expressed friendship. Others expressed fear. All of them wanted to understand these newcomers from the dangerous Red Zone. "The Galactic Union has requested formal contact," Theron reported. "They sent 3 ambassadors last week. They seem very eager to establish relations." Admiral Hyan made a sound that might have been amusement. Interesting how quickly they became interested once they saw we could fight. They were willing to let you die when they thought you were weak. "Many species operate from fear," Hana said diplomatically. "They see the universe as hostile, so they prioritize their own survival above all else. We cannot blame them entirely. But we also do not have to accept their behavior as normal." The vote was called. One by one, each Coalition species representative cast their decision. The result was unanimous. The Valthine Coalition formally requested alliance with humanity. Not just a treaty, full alliance. Military cooperation, technology sharing, and open borders. "We accept," Captain Minho said simply. "Earth welcomes the Coalition as friends and allies. We will help you rebuild. We will help you defend yourselves. And we will stand with you if threats emerge in the future." Velthus felt emotion overwhelming him again. "Why, you could demand tribute or territory, you saved us? You have the military power to take whatever you want?" Minho looked genuinely confused by the question. "That is not how we do things, Ambassador. Earth unified under a principle we still hold sacred. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. We stand against oppression and aggression. We do not become the monsters we fight. Our strength exists to serve peace, not to enforce domination." The formal ceremony continued with speeches and official documents. But the real moment of change happened later in the evening. Velthus found himself at an informal gathering where humans and Coalition members shared food and conversation. It was strange seeing beings from different species laughing together after months of fear and war. Dr. Yuna was surrounded by Coalition scientists discussing biology and sharing research. She had become something of a celebrity among academic circles. Her bioweapon had saved billions of lives, and her willingness to share knowledge freely had earned deep respect. "On Earth, we believe knowledge belongs to everyone," Yuna explained to a group of researchers. "Hoarding scientific advancement helps no one. The more we all know, the better we can face future challenges together." Engineer Jin Honho was working with Valthine technicians on improving their shield systems. He pointed at designs on a holographic display. "See, your shields are elegant but too specialized. You optimize them for energy weapons, but Earth taught us to prepare for everything. We will show you how to make shields that adapt to different threats in real time." Sergeant Nari was teaching combat techniques to Coalition security forces. But more importantly, she was teaching them confidence. "You're not weak," Nari told a class of young Valthine soldiers. "You just never had to be warriors before. That is not a failing, that is actually beautiful. You built a civilization based on peace, we respect that. But now you know the galaxy has threats. So we will teach you how to defend your peace. In a quiet corner, Commander Kell sat with Captain Sung. The two military officers had developed a friendship during the battle. They were comparing tactical philosophies over drinks. I still cannot believe your Marines fought wounded, Kell admitted. One of your soldiers had a broken arm and refused medical evacuation until the battle ended. Sung shrugged. Humans have a high pain tolerance. Evolution made us that way. But more than that, we have strong loyalty to our squad mates. We do not leave until everyone is safe. It is not just training, it is cultural. Your culture is written in war, Kell observed. Yes, Sung agreed. But also in survival, cooperation, and hope. War taught us terrible lessons, Commander. But it also taught us that we are strongest when we stand together. That is why we came when you called. Because standing together is what humans do best. The evening progressed, and Ambassador Velthus found himself in a private conversation with Admiral Hyan. The older human had been quiet during most of the celebration, observing more than participating. You are troubled, Velthus observed. Hyan nodded slowly. I am thinking about the future, Ambassador. We destroyed the swarm completely. We had to, but that level of force frightens other species. The Union ambassadors looked at our military records with fear in their eyes. They asked if Earth has ever considered conquest. What did you tell them? The truth, Hyan replied. That humanity has conquered before. We conquered each other for thousands of years. We know exactly how terrible conquest is. That is why we choose differently now. We learn that peace built on fear and dominance never lasts. Real peace comes from mutual respect and cooperation. Velthus was quiet for a moment. The galaxy will need time to understand you. They see your strength and assume you will use it like they would, but you are different. You choose to be different. We have to be, Hyan said. Because if we became like the worst civilizations we have encountered, then what was the point of all our history? All our struggles would be meaningless if we just became another empire of fear. The weeks that followed brought more changes. Human civilian ships began arriving. Not military vessels, but traders, explorers, and colonists. They came with technology to share and goods to trade. They came with curiosity about the coalition species and genuine interest in cultural exchange. A human teacher named Day established the first human coalition cultural center on the capital station. Young beings from different species came to learn about Earth. Day showed them videos of humanity's homeworld. The students watched in amazement at Earth's extreme environments. Your mountains are so tall, a young Valthine said, and your oceans so deep. How did you survive in such a place? We adapted, Day explained. We learned to work together. No human survived alone on Earth. We needed our families, our tribes, our communities. That is still true today. Humans are strong individually, but we are strongest as a group. The students also learned human history. They saw the wars and conflicts. They saw the suffering and destruction humans inflicted on each other. But they also saw the peace that eventually came. The cooperation. The decision to reach for the stars together instead of destroying each other. You chose to be better, a student observed. Every day, Day agreed. That is the important part. Being better is not something you achieve once. It is something you choose every single day. Sometimes we fail, but we keep trying. 6 months after first contact, the formal ceremony happened. Captain Minho received the Coalition's highest honor, the Star of Unity. It had been created specifically for this occasion. He stood before thousands of Coalition citizens and human crew members. I accept this honor on behalf of every human who came when you called for help, Minho said. His voice carried across the hall. We did not come for glory or reward. We came because helping others is what humanity believes in. Your suffering mattered to us. Your lives mattered to us. That will never change. He paused, looking around at the assembled beings. The galaxy is learning that Earth exists. They are learning what humans can do. Some fear us. Some want to use us. But I promise you this. Humanity will be what we choose to be. We will be protectors, not conquerors. We will be friends, not masters. We will stand for those who cannot stand alone. The applause was deafening, but Minho felt uncomfortable with the attention. Later, he told Hana, "I just did what was right. Any decent person would have done the same." "That is exactly why you earned that medal," Hana replied. "Because you do not see helping others as heroic, you see it as simply being human." The Terran Defense Force established a permanent garrison in Coalition space. Not an occupation force, a partnership. Human ships patrolled alongside Coalition vessels. They trained together. They learned from each other. And slowly, the Coalition military transformed from a defensive force into a real unified fleet. Dr. Yuna published her research on the swarm freely. Scientists across the galaxy could now study it and prepare defenses if similar threats emerged.